Thanks for being our guest today, and thanks for being with Talent Flow and with Talent Flow followers who can watch our live video now. Dear people who are interested in the topic, and today's topic is Flow Leadership and FLIGBY. And this masterclass will be delivered by Dr. Zoltan Buzady, who is professor of leadership, global expert of leadership and flow with 25 plus years of experience in leadership, management, HR, and organizational behavior. And I would like to use the opportunity and would like to mention very important thing that I was lucky enough to have Dr. Buzady as my professor while I was doing my MBA at CEU Business School, Central European University Business School. He was my professor, and also I was his research assistant, and we wrote together very interesting and very good topic about BDO Hungary case study named Teaching Farmers to Hunt, which won the Seaman case study competition across the European business schools in 2011. Thank you, Professor, for being my professor, now for being my friend, my coach, mentor, and I appreciate you very much, and I have learned a lot from you. I have learned a lot of wonderful things from you and from working with you. And today's topic is, as I mentioned, flow leadership and FLIGBY, which I hope will be very interesting for people who are listening. And Professor will share with us also some slides, and other slides will be posted in the event page, so we can go through them. So thank you, Zoltan.
So thank you, Lika, for your very kind introduction. It is true that we've been knowing each other professionally for a long period. And, you know, our connection at that time was for learning. And now I'm very happy that you have learned the essence that the knowledge is not worth a little bit if you don't share it with others. And you're doing that now in your life, in your context, in a very good and professional way. I'm very happy that you did not learn the first loop, but the second loop. It is to bring the best of our skills on how to make the world different. In our field, the difference comes from people. It comes from leadership, not in the technological sense, like medical people, or in other respects, in political sense, for example, but from a leadership perspective. So I'm very thankful that you do this, Lika. And through you, I have already been twice in Georgia. So this presentation, this talk is going to be mostly focused on my expected audience in Georgia, which I like a lot. And I'm very happy that we can go deeper now, explaining what I'm doing. The purpose of this presentation has several dimensions. Anybody watching this can learn the essence of what is flow, how to be a leader, the essence. The alternative to what I'm going to do is easy because you can read the book. But I think most people nowadays do not read the books. I will speak about this, so you can take this away. But more importantly, we want to have an impact, not in your brain and your knowledge. We are going to speak, hopefully, also to HR people who are in charge of making their companies more competitive. We are not in the psychology of happiness or something like this I'm going to speak a lot about. Fundamentally, we are in the business of making business. And our tools for developing this with Lika are professional tools which have been worked both in science but also in practice, and you will discover with games, so that it is actually an amusement, an easy way of learning. So Lika, I will ask you to share with the audience also the link which is in our private chat, so that they can follow the slides if they wish at their own pace. I will start now sharing my own slides and to talk to you as we go along. So as Lika said, she had been lucky to study in my beautiful city. It is called Budapest, very easy to reach also.
Exactly.
It is along the Danube. It's between east and west. And people here in this country are facing mostly towards business in the West, but increasingly we realize that we have actually as much to do and commonalities, for example, with Georgia as with Western countries. I'm a full-time professor now at the best business school in Europe, Central Europe, I have to say, sorry. It is a triple accredited soon. It's this what you can see in the background. It's Corvinus University, my home institution. And it's a great place also for studying if you are interested in that portfolio. I have shared with you my slides through the bit.ly link or through Lika's assistance in the chat. And the background of my country and my city is really attractive. But what makes it particularly interesting now for you and for us is this little toy here, which most people know as the Rubik Cube, and it's a Hungarian invention. You will see that playing games is as much fun as it is learning. So this Rubik Cube is a perfect example.
Zoli, sorry, can you share your screen once again so we can see it here as well?
I thought that it is on share. I will do that.
Yes,
Thank you for your assistance.
yes. Sorry for interrupting, but it's not visible. So let's try once again.
Yes. Bit better now?
No. Just blue blank page is visible, and the screen is not noticeable. Maybe once again, and if no, we can just go through the talk and then share slides in the event page.
Just a second.
Yes.
I'll close this here. Remove. I'm here.
Guys who are listening, we want to share with you the screen of Professor Buzady, which is very valuable screen, I have to say. So we will try to show you the slides. If no, we will share all the slides in event page so you can enjoy all the information about flow.
Just on the technical side, it tells me clearly that my screen is being shared. So you as a host, maybe you have to play around a bit. And also to the public chat, share the links, because you have to share them in the links in the public chat.
Yes. But it's not on the page. We can go through the talk and masterclass topics and the information what you are talking about, and maybe we can try a bit later to share the screen because the screen is visible still.
Okay, so please share then the public slides then.
Okay, I will share
the URL.
So you can go through the information you are sharing, and I will try to share the slides. I also have your slides, and I will try to share them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm getting ready for my side of the story, because I don't want to confuse the audience. Then I'll reduce the story. Okay.
Zoltan, please share once again your screen. People are commenting that slides were visible. So go through the sharing, and I will click the button of sharing, and it's visible.
So it does work.
It's visible for everyone except me. Thank you, guys. Okay. I'm sharing it, and we can go through it. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good news. Thank you. It takes us a few seconds until the internet is loading the slides which I have prepared for you. Actually, many. Okay. So games. I was talking to you about the Rubik Cube, which you could see on it, and you will see that educating adults, leadership topics, and how to lead people is also going to be very much a process similar to resolving the Rubik Cube. Most people, when they are choosing what kind of leaders they want to be, they very much have first an impression about whom they want to recreate in the future. Maybe they want to be a leader who asks very good questions. Somebody is a leader who wants to achieve goals. Somebody wants to be like a sailing boat and have his or her team. But actually, these individual pictures of being a leader is not good enough, because you have to lead people, other people, not only yourself. So the essence of a good leader is to focus on the other participants in your team and in your group. When people are selecting team members in a job interview, very often they're being misled by consultants and other professors. For example, they teach the theory of Belbin team roles, and they say in a questionnaire it is possible to select the people you need in your team by choosing the best skills they have. But in reality, all teams after a while disintegrate and fall apart. People after a while are unhappy in the group where they are, so it takes the manager to intervene, to make the team dynamics become actually stable, not by selecting the best people, but by constantly interfering. And one basis, a modern basis of leading people, which I'm propagating with a professor I'm going to introduce to you, has to do with happiness. And on this slide, it's a graphical representation. I would like to indicate that there are various different ways of enjoying your life and finding happiness. And the question will be, is it possible also to create happiness as a motivational tool and a leadership tool for future generations, modern generations already now? Because money and giving orders is not good enough for leading great teams. Instead of these orders, I recommend to explore with me the possibility of using happiness as a guiding principle, also in management, as it is in other fields with success. It is successful, for example, you will see, for example, in arts. Most people, when they see this poor man working with a horse and his son here in the hot summer months, think that this clearly is not what they would like to achieve. Instead of this, they would rather want to be happy sitting on a beach, drinking this cocktail here or the ice, and then just relax. Oh, how great it would be. But if you're serious to yourself and honest to yourself, you discover that this is pretty boring after a while. You can sit here for 1 hour, 2 hours. I get too bored after 2 hours. But somebody maybe after 2 days or after 2 weeks, you start to say, but what I'm doing here, there's nothing to do. In fact, this definition of happiness for this man is higher nature. It's a different happiness because he's doing something for his own future and he's being active. He's applying his energy and his knowledge, and he must communicate with the animal and his son maybe, or the colleague who's driving the plow. And it is the wisdom of the past which he's applying here and now. And he goes home and says, this was a hard day's work. But probably he's happier than somebody who's just sitting there and being passive. So what I'm talking about in terms of management is to discuss with your employees what is making their life meaningful. Meaningful. There are psychologists who have discovered this fundamental question and have researched it. And it is not just a question of religion, which many of us can subscribe to, but many people who are not religious, they ask also the question, why should I do this type of work and not the other one? And this professor I'm going to talk to you about now, he's not Georgian. Many people across the world think that Csikszentmihalyi, he is so difficult to pronounce, but it's Hungarian. And he's a world-famous professor who founded a new science, a science of creativity, what makes people productive. And based on this creativity, the question arose, what really makes people happy? The happiness studies, and there's a new science also of psychology, a new science he founded of positive psychology. But luckily for you, I can call myself an associate with him. He's a colleague of mine, and he invented something which I'm going to speak to you about related to happiness and leadership, which is called the flow. First, a few words about how Csikszentmihalyi discovered the flow. This older man was young, of course, and when he was young, also, he was living in an environment as a Hungarian where there were bombs over Budapest in the Second World War. And he remembers when he was playing chess, a game, he completely forgot about the misery and about the stress in life. And later, when he was a refugee in Rome with his parents, who were intellectuals, he observed that most people were in the black zone, completely depressed. When is the war over? When can we go back into our nice life? And he observed also that some people around him, like his mother and father, they started a restaurant, although they were diplomats, the restaurant called Piccolo Budapest, Small Budapest in Rome. And every day they got up with energy, and in the evening they were tired, but they said that the work was sensible and it was creative to create new menus and to organize, and they had a good mood. So this graph is the essence of modern leadership problems. Many companies are full with people who are unhappy, just are there for the money, but ultimately they're internally burnt out and black and defensive and in apathy. And some people still in the same workplace find internal creativity, they find meaning in their work. So the question is, what is the difference? And this is what Csikszentmihalyi started to research. What makes the difference between creative people and who say that they're very happy, and people who are basically in the negative zone and so far were treated with clinical psychology in the sense of being aggressive or depressive. And this is about creativity and happiness studies. So Csikszentmihalyi made fundamental studies, and he discovered something which now is called optimal experience. It is something during the day which happens to you, and it makes you feel much better than without it. And if you sit in the sun like this, as I told you, there is no activity happening. After a while, you get bored. It might be pleasure, but it gets after a while to a plateau. Whilst this person is probably experiencing optimal experience. If you would stop him right now, how do you feel? He would say, oh, I'm sweating and I'm hot, but actually I'm doing a great work. Look how great it goes. We are advancing, we'll be finished by tonight. So this person is describing, showing on the picture what I would think is called the optimal experience if we would ask him. Now, optimal experience sounds a bit bizarre, and people who spoke to Csikszentmihalyi describing activities they liked as being taken away with external energy and swimming faster than they normally would. And therefore, they started to call this energy like being in the big river, being in the flow, being in the zone. And this is the more trendy word which you guys now know. It's called to be in the zone or being in flow. But who has seen it? How can you discover it? Well, in a longer training, we would go deeper in analyzing how it looks and how it emerges. But now I'm just giving you a quick definition with Csikszentmihalyi here. He is in a restaurant, a cafe on beautiful Budapest, Andrássy Avenue. Lika, maybe you have been there when you visited us last fall, I mean. It is called the Flow Cafe. And on the wall, you can see the definition that flow, he said what it is. Flow is actually something related to an activity. I like it. It's not passivity, it's doing something. And this activity, you do it for its own sake or because you have a goal that you want to achieve something. And during this activity, you don't care what others are thinking about you. The ego falls away. The time goes very fast. You don't notice that maybe you've been speaking for 20 minutes, 1 hour, or you've been doing your work. And everything goes inevitably, automatically, and you're improvising, you're creative, you feel internally energized, and there's a moment of enjoyment. So this is the Csikszentmihalyi's definition of what the flow is. And if you have seen people really doing something in the background, like this guy here on the little screen, maybe you can see him in the background of the cafe is writing something on his laptop. I'm sure he is in flow. This is how the flow looks. Now, Csikszentmihalyi's work is essential not only because he identified this flow, but he was able to describe when it comes about, what is the theory. And we'll speak to this a little bit more as we go along. But it is essentially coming about when you have a high level of skills. So this is the first axis. And you have a high skill which you're actually applying at a high challenge. If you have a skill and you don't use it, you will feel bored, right? And if you have something to do, a high challenge, but you don't have the skill for it, you will feel anxiety. So flow comes about in the easiest form to describe if you're doing something with your skills in an activity which is actually pretty complicated, but not too complicated, and therefore you are in the zone. There can be also a mental state of apathy, which is when you don't have any idea what to do, you don't like the situation, you can't get out of it. And I think far too many of your colleagues and clients and employees, if you're an HR manager, are hanging around between boredom. When there is change, they feel immediate anxiety. Many of them are in apathy and just want you to pay them money, and that's it. Instead of that, I recommend you to explore how to get into the flow zone, how to get into the white zone. Because there are many benefits for anybody in the flow when you're doing this in your activities. It can be anything. For example, some people, when they cut the grass at the weekend house, then what happens is you try to find the optimal route with a machine in the garden to cut the grass. So concentration gets really deep. You are focusing on the grass. It's only this grass here, this garden you are focusing. You don't think about the next meeting in 2 weeks' time or about the company projects. You feel in control. It's totally up to you which direction the process will go. Sometimes it's finished in 5 minutes, but you look at the clock and it took 20 minutes. And you wonder where it was. And nobody really cares about you, whether you're a professor or not, an HR expert. You just do an activity. So these are some of the positive benefits which psychologists have identified which come with flow. Now, Csikszentmihalyi has also identified correlation between other feelings. So apart from apathy and boredom, when you have your skills and you sort of apply them slowly and you move away from the boredom, then there is a mental state of relaxation. And then there is an even higher level of control. And when you're fully in control, you move into the flow category by going beyond your abilities. So, for example, I did this presentation very, very often by now. But when Lika told me the screen is not on and you can't see it, oh my God, what happened? I felt a little bit nervous. And then I got back into control. And now I try to make my presentation as interesting and engaging for you as possible. So I'm here on this zone, just about to lose my ego and this sense of time, feeling totally in control now. But the other feelings which I mentioned to you, anxiety and apathy, which is between these two, is, for example, worry. It's a transition between, it's not so extreme. In anxiety, you are sure that something horrible will come to you. And in arousal, it is beyond the flow. So I would like to make a small quiz, for example, for you to test. I mean, how do you observe on yourself, what is the body language of each of these different emotions, mental states? How do you notice that somebody is not bored, but actually in the relaxation phase? How do you notice that somebody is in control, but not in flow, or in flow, but not in control anymore, but actually in the flow? And this, as a leader, or for yourself leading your life, you should be more aware. So the next time you catch yourself in worrying, you will be thinking, which is the skills I would need to feel safer and being the average daily routine, which is the subjective mean in the middle of this emotional states. So how do you detect this? The quiz is in a training, role playing and discovering different body languages and sentences. I'm pretty sure that you think that you know people who are in anxiety and relaxation, but when it comes to write down 10 sentences or 10 situations, oh my God, then you need some practice and you don't know how it works. So this was chapter 1, the first one after my introduction. I hope that now you should know the essence of what is flow, who invented it, why is this important, what happens under flow, what are its advantages, and what does it mean optimal experience compared to other experiences which are not so optimal. I'm now going to move on a little bit into talking to you in the business context, because flow as optimal experience has been clearly discovered as a tool for pedagogists. Children who go to school, they have teachers who learned about the flow, and they are giving them activities which stimulate their skills so that they learn, and they support them if they're challenged. Musicians, artists, they all know about this. They are developing the skills. they practice the skills, the musical skills, so that they are actually performing even better when the moment comes, because they know if they're not prepared for it, then it's difficult to do. But what about leadership? So my colleagues have approached Csikszentmihalyi and so told him, this is actually something very interesting. And it turns out that Csikszentmihalyi discovered this idea that leadership and flow should be combined by himself also. He wrote actually good books also about how to apply the idea of flow to a leadership situation. And he observed it and described it with other managers. To get a feeling what we're talking about, look at these two dogs. They go home from office, from work. They're very angry, very depressed, and they say to each other, they complain, it's always sit, be quiet, stay, heal, come here, sit down. And the dogs would rather want to think, to innovate, be themselves, run around, be funny, bark, and intervene in the process, right? So the problem here is not with the dogs, it's with the leadership. These dogs are unhappy, not in flow, not because they don't have it in their genes, but they have not given the opportunity to be themselves. And I'm not saying that all dogs, like Lika's dog here, Scooby, can drive a car and really enjoy it, but this dog is funny. And some other dogs are more funny in hunting. They like to run around. Again, other dogs are really designed for doing other activities. Video gaming, here FLIGBY, Scooby-Doo is also watching this, what we're going to talk about. So back to serious. I'm saying that different types of people, different types of personalities need to be discovered by a good leader, what they are good at, so that these participants, these members can actually unfold their inner creativity. That's why we think that flow is super relevant for workplaces, because otherwise you end up with people asking just for money because it is not their happiness in terms of enjoyment, but they're just looking for the pleasure to earn some money and spend it elsewhere. Now, if this is relevant, how can a person improve the flow of others? In the slides which are shared with you, you will see now a number with Csikszentmihalyi. The first of all is, you can really make me angry when we speak about happiness officers. The further east I go, Romania, Ukraine, Georgia, and Kazakhstan, they have spent so much money on nonsense. Team building with bowling, picnic, coaches who are just speaking nice stuff to HR managers. They are actually destroying the happiness of people by promising them nonsense. They say, if you have a happiness calendar and you make the office colorful, this will make people creative. This will make the work more meaningful. No. Csikszentmihalyi has found a science, and that is called positive psychology, which is based on numbers. It can be repeated under circumstances. We get certain effect. And it's not just voodoo or nice talk about what a good coach would do or happiness officers. So we need a theory. You need a theory which he has documented as a scientist as a way to meaningful work, meaningful experiences, optimal experience. You can watch about this. What are the ingredients into flow? But I'm going to repeat them now, and you can watch the movie as we go along on yourself. The first element, which Csikszentmihalyi has discovered, that you have to think like this little man here in the trees, what you want to achieve. What is your goal? As a musician, what is the piece you would like to play? As an artist, what is the painting you would like to create? As a cook at home, what is going to be the menu today? What I'm going to talk about with my friends? What I'm going to teach my dog when I have some time with him or her? But in a company situation, you also need to lead people by speaking to them about the overall vision, the goals they should try to work for and include their creativity. So no goal, no direction, no flow can come about. We can also call it sort of tasks later on when they're broken down into smaller units. So rule number one, establish a clear goal, which others can identify with, which is the direction, which is the mission of the company, the overall picture. When you play chess, it is to win the tournament. This is what Csikszentmihalyi discovered as a child when he was in the bunker under threat of life, and he lost his sense of time, falling into flow because the goal was to win against his uncle in the chess game. The second thing he observed is when he played chess is he saw immediately the movement of the other party, the counter movement. So immediate feedback is also important. Artists can see immediately when they draw a line or a painting or musician, they hear immediately the impact of their work under which they're controlled. So they increase the volume, they change the colors. But what about you in your leadership situation? Do you give enough feedback? And many people say, yes, we have annual and quarterly feedback. This is exactly not flow feedback. It has to be immediately, not money. Words about you're on the right track. This is what you have done well. It should be frequent, constructive, actionable feedback, but not a review later on. It is happening on the job, on the activity. The third feature of leading people into flow, which Csikszentmihalyi has identified, is that you must have a balance between your skills level and the challenges, which I spoke to you about. And they are dynamic situations. So, for example, this little funny feature or a guy, he's so light that for him, this is a great skill to have, and this puts him into flow. The same activity for me would be far too difficult. I don't have this gymnastic skills, so I would feel in totally in anxiety, and I would say I'm incapable of doing that. And again, others who are more gymnastic than him, they would see that this challenge based on their skills is actually boring because they have better skills than this guy. So the third feature of Csikszentmihalyi's flow theory is that you have to find a balance, the art of balancing between challenges and skills, as I've shown it already. But getting into the zone, not going too much into the green and into the blue, needs to be learned and exercised. A musician is learning this him or herself. A cook is making the food, and you learn, how much too much salt, when the temperature is too warm. So in a dynamic process, even if you do something as an activity, after a while you develop the skills. That's why it's flow. But the same skills you have at a higher and higher level, moving from A to B, after a while make the activity maybe too easy, bored. So then you switch, and then you're in D. Oh, it's too difficult, and then you have to develop again your skills. So discovering who's good at what and what is the challenge you need to delegate for your employees, this is what we train, this is what we have tools for. You have the concept, it's easily accessible, but really how to do it? Well, it is an art, but you can also develop your art by practicing this in a controlled training seminar. The fourth element which flow needs, otherwise it will not come about, is a focus. So the further east I go, the more undisciplined people are, and they are multitasking. At their work, they think about the weekend plans, they think about what they will do with the friends, there are different chats and the meetings and this and that. No, you cannot enjoy your work if you're thinking about other tasks. I cannot think about what I'm going to do tonight, what I'm going to tell my children when they come back into the room, what they've studied. Now I must be here on this presentation. Not too many meetings, no interruption, no multitasking. So this is just one of the inputs as well into flow. And again, this is the science. You have learned the principles of flow, how to put people into flow in your team. It probably is not going to be enough. You need to find out where you get the energy from and how you can practice this. I get at that now. How to improve your own flow at your own work, because so far we spoke of flow of others. Well, the principles are similar. The questions are somewhat different. Think of these action heroes. Most people, when they think of good leadership, they identify themselves with one of these heroes. I've shown you at the beginning of the presentation somewhat different icons. But what these heroes actually make a hero is that they do what they can really do well. So they know about the skills. I don't know all these characters, it's just symbolic, but each of these characters knows pretty well what they can do well so that they can get into flow. So here comes the important question: what is the skill you have as a leader? Most people tell me nonsense. They say, I'm a good team player. I'm a good in writing emails. I'm good. I can use Word. I mean, people have very, very limited definition of what leadership skills exist. Maybe they can name five, three, seven, and that's it. So they have no repertoire to describe themselves in terms of skills they have as a leader. Second, most people who want to get into flow as a leader, even if they know their skills, they don't know whether it is actually very high or low compared to others. So they have fantasies about that, what skills they have, and it turns out that they are not that particularly developed. They wish they would have them. They're told that they should have them, but they don't know whether they have them. Csikszentmihalyi, based on the books which I have mentioned to you, has identified 29 management and leadership skills, not five or seven, 29. They are described based on the book which is called Good Business. This is a third global bestseller by him. And in this book, he expanded his ideas of flow and ethics also into the business world, because this is based on business people who were successful in international global companies. And the definition of success is that they have creative organizations, business excellence, professionalism, and they add to their environment, which is sustainability, and they're good for society. So pretty difficult work. And these people who created those larger organizations are interviewed and described in this book. And based on this book, he has identified 29 leadership skills which you should check out. So, these 29 skills are many. It's part of the training also to discover them, what they mean. But I have a sort of a quiz. So, for example, I will stop and interrupt this presentation maybe for a few minutes. And I will ask Lika as my discussion partner, here's skill number 10, which is called diplomacy. And then there is a skill called conflict management, number 8. So if somebody is very good at conflict management, what kind of job would you recommend to this person so that this person actually discovers more flow at the work? Lika, if you can come back.
Sure, totally. I'm back. Thanks for your very interesting information. We have lots of comments here, but one comment.
We will continue. It's just the part of the quiz.
Yes. Yes.
If somebody has, we'll come to the comments. But for example, what kind of leadership position is useful or suitable for a person who will be in high score of conflict management?
I think that conflict management is very useful and important skill for any managerial position, and I would say that for HR managers it's very important, because you have to deal with dozens of people who are different kind of personalities, and you have to treat employees well, you have to treat management well, you have to have high emotional intelligence, and that's why conflict management, I think it's very important for HR people, but not only, for all middle managerial level positions.
And if you have a client or a candidate who has high diplomacy skill, what kind of leadership position would you recommend to this person to discover his flow or her flow?
How, with high diplomacy? High diplomacy is very good in sales as well, in corporate sales as well, in the positions where you have to communicate with lots of people in your job.
Yes.
Maybe project management as well.
Yes,
Project management
exactly.
officer as well.
So, for example, we go very deep in each of these skills. We give tools and definitions. Conflict management, for example, is when you go into the problem or between people or issues. But diplomacy, you more sort of stay a little bit out, and you organize the process so that
Yes,
they come together by themselves. But you don't get into the process so that you are actually coming up with a solution based on your strengths,
exactly,
but
exactly.
the
Based
different
on
strengths.
based on my experience, I would like to mention that diplomacy is very important skill for HR managers because you have to somewhere keep the golden middle and golden balance between the management and employees, and all the time in communication, you have to somehow use these diplomacy skills and keep the balance in communication and in decision making as well.
Okay, so I will continue now with the
Okay,
next one.
I will show off from screen now. Thank you, Zoe.
You're welcome. So, dear audience, this was to say that the way to get into flow as a leader is you must know what are your skills really, which skills exist, what they mean, and what is your level of being particularly advanced. Now, with Csikszentmihalyi's good business book, which you have seen on screen, he defined also the aspects of being a good leader. And one new aspect is to put people into creativity, into flow. And therefore, we have introduced in our set 4 skills which we think are particularly important because these skills create flow in others. To set a goal, I told you number 1. To give immediate feedback is this second. To know who's good at what is this skill, applying personal strengths. And skill number 4 is also relevant because that's the delegation aspect of the challenge dimension. And skill number 5, which would be needed, but it's not a leadership skill, it's create a focus for your work, but it's more of a setup in the organization, so we can look at the meeting culture and the processes to have focus. Now, this was part 4. We'll have one more topic left. Part 4, to summarize, were the principles of flow, more flow for you as a leader, so that you can help others. Now, the last topic is going to be, so far, everything I told you could read. I mean, it's a pity if you did not read it because it's in every bookshop, the flow book. But now comes Csikszentmihalyi's interesting tool. And this is a tool which is only for advanced people who really want to get deep and serious and professional about leadership development. So this is not talking about nice things and coaching as such, but it's actually something which he has developed. And you can see here Mihai at my university in Budapest, when he visited us, we launched a global research unit. It is called the Leadership and Flow Research Center. You can follow our blogs on Facebook and LinkedIn. And in the background, you can see what you can see also in my background, because it's my poster. And this is what I'm going to explain to you. Csikszentmihalyi, with his company, founded something which is a digital tool, and it is based on his own principles of flow because it has such great advantages, and it is embedded in a business environment, like the second book I spoke more about, Good Business, but it's something you don't have to read. You can actually exercise and learn for yourself, and that's what's for you. And this tool is called FLIGBY. That's the brand name of something. To understand what FLIGBY is, I have to tell you that this is a serious gaming tool, and it is something which is emerging in the last few years, and it is not a simulation game. It's not a training tool. It's not an edutainment fun stuff. It is a serious game. You can see on this chart that simulation games don't have a learning factor in it. A serious game is teaching you something. Training exercises are not very gameful because you have to do something until you have learned the process perfectly. So, for example, when you fly a plane, a simulator, it's different because there's no theory you learn. And therefore, there is a different function of all these. But what I'm talking about has these 3 functions together. The first function is game. I told you about Budapest, the Rubik Cube, and my attitude that we need tools to train people which are entertaining, which are fun. They should be good. My teaching and training motto is all forms of training are valid except the boring one. Nobody likes to be bored. And the teacher and the trainer should have a tool for that. And FLIGBY is an ideal tool for top managers so that they are not getting bored from the training and sitting there and just discuss things. They have no time for that. They need a game which is engaging. And our game, this FLIGBY game, is actually set in California, where people are becoming a general manager. Everybody plays him or herself alone for several hours in a video story. And in this video story, they compete against each other to be the best leader of the same company. They play parallel. And in this story, it's really funny because you have real characters, actors, professional actors who are playing the staff members, and there are lots of arguments going on between each other. The strategy is unclear on whether the company should make more money or better wine. And when the bills are not paid, is it the problem of the back office manager, or have you organized the process poorly? So there are real characters, like in a good, engaging soap opera almost. Then there is learning. And in this tool, Csikszentmihalyi wants you to teach the principles of flow and the principles of good business. So each of these characters in the story has a mental state. And in this mental state, you have to guess where they are in the feelings. And now, Lika, I'm going to make my second experiment. I'm going to switch now to the FLIGBY. I'm going to show 1 or 2 or 3 characters and ask you what you think is the mental state of this person. To make it a little bit easier for all the others, we don't use 8 mental states. We use these 4 at the beginning, and I will pick characters who will introduce themselves, and they will say something about themselves. I'm just a second, I'm loading it. And,
okay, Zoli, I'm back.
Good. So this game is actually an online tool, and people play it at their own pace. The trainer, like me, can see the progress, and we have great support, technical support in seeing the learning progress. So I'm going to show you now somebody who's the chief winemaker. He's Alex, and he's been with the company for 25 years. And he will say a few words to you and the viewers. And the quiz is, can you tell me which is this guy's mental state and how did you discover it?
Zoli, yes, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to mention that I have played FLIGBY game, and this is
Yes,
awesome,
yes.
absolutely, and very interesting and wonderful. And about characters, from the very beginning, I thought on different way, but at the end, I figured out and I found that they were in different state of zone and of FLIGBY diagram. About Alex, I would like to mention that. From the very beginning, I thought differently, but then I thought that he's in apathy. That's what I remember about FLIGBY.
Yes. Okay,
He's in
I suggest we have a quick look to see that he's in apathy, so that the viewers, our guests, can actually get a little bit of a feeling on how does some actor play somebody in apathy in a company. Let's start it again.
How do you do? I guess I should say welcome, but I'm not sure that would sound sincere enough. I wouldn't change places with you for anything, and that's something coming from me. You know, I've been here for more than 20 years. Do you know what you've gotten yourself into? There are some major issues regarding our product line that I insist you deal with immediately. Are you up to this job?
So you were right. This guy, we were told, Csikszentmihalyi told him, you must play somebody in apathy now, because as a chief winemaker, being there for 25 years, and you arrive as a new leader, and
yes.
Why did you come here? This is hell on earth. I mean, he doesn't have to have the skills anymore to change the company, and there's nothing for him to do, and you must discover what made him move into apathy. Good. Should I show another character maybe?
Yes, I think we can try 2 more characters.
Okay, so I will show you your office manager. She is a very loyal person, And the quiz again for the viewers is, if she's not in flow, you will see that she's not in flow. What mental state could it be? Let's see.
Sometimes I feel like the expression, not happy, Jen. There were a lot of extra tasks dumped on me when James, our ex-GM, left. When after that, Wendy, Sue, and Bob left too. I'm not a good person for accounts, but I do it because somebody has to. Bob often says proudly when he introduces me to guests that I took on the back office and all this extra stuff, but I say I didn't take it on, it was dumped on me. I feel overwhelmed sometimes and unappreciated, but don't get me wrong, I'm happy to get you coffee occasionally.
Okay, so
I think that I remember that Jane is in anxiety. Am I right?
yes, I mean you should be confident, yes, because you can see her body language playing with the hair, and sometimes she's staccato, and you know she complains that she has to do things she doesn't understand. You know, everything has been dumped on her, so you have to discover which skills she's lacking, which skills you need to develop, or what kind of skills she actually has, so that she can stay with the company because she's very loyal. Maybe she needs to do a different type of job at the wine company. Okay, so this is for the viewers, and if they are unsure in the system for the training, you can always click as a player onto the characters, like for example Alex, and it highlights the apathy, and then after a while, based on your decisions and your strategy on how to move this person over the story into flow, it will be tracked. So you have to discover, why is this guy so stuck here? I mean, how can you involve him in the decision making? Again, others are a little bit in worry, for example. Oh, it is Chris. What is he worried about? Well, he's worried about that this production will change too fast, and he wants to stabilize the system like a good IT manager or production manager. Good. So this was a little bit of a show of how FLIGBY looks like, but FLIGBY and this tool by Csikszentmihalyi is also a simulation game. So you've seen that it runs in the cloud, and everybody, all the fear, this is me, when you play, everything is horrible. You have to make big decisions and you don't know what is the best, but it is better to be making bad decisions and losing money in a simulation game than in reality. It's better to misjudge somebody's emotions and make a bad personal leadership strategy in a simulation with your fears than in the real world. Now, apart from the risk-free learning possibility, FLIGBY offers something which is super interesting because it measures 29 skills. So when people have finished the game, they not only see the game results, that this person, for example, one of my best students ever at the school, she got lots of high maximum scores in game dimensions, but she can also see her leadership scores, leadership skill scores. And when they get this, for example, here's a friend of mine, it's not you, Lika, this time, but it's a person, and this person is very good at communication skills, as 92%, and the global average of 22,000 other players is 64. This person is 99 people are weaker than she is in the communication skills. She's very good in emotional intelligence. She has very good active listening skills. She is very good at giving feedback. She's very involved. She's very good at understanding who's good at what. She's very good at thinking long-term strategically. She's very good at understanding the organizational social dynamics. So what kind of profession I would recommend her? Would you recommend her? What kind of activity would put this person into flow? Would be, for example, the training and discussion question. These are the scores which are weaker for her. So she should avoid activities where this is necessary, because currently she's not that strong compared to her own self as others, as these skills. So we build flow always as a leader on your existing skills and your strengths. And she, after a few years, left an international global bank, and then she went to work for a communications company, and then a telecom company, and then left that too, and now is having an own coaching executive coaching school. And I think these skills are really fitting very well her work requirements. So she gets lots of flow by having the strategic director position and organized trainings also for executive training clients. So FLIGBY is actually one example of what you have now learned, what a serious game is, and it really is supporting learning and development. Now, the last philosophical questions I'm asking you and all the others is, now in Georgia, I've heard that the currency is also devalued and the businesses are going bad. But do you only develop leadership skills and people when there is money? Is it just something to have in the nice to have category? I'm being even more provocative. Musicians, what they do, musicians and artists, they practice first and then they do performance. Then they do creative movements. And management people nowadays, they think that they perform constantly and they don't have to practice. I really would like to take you on at the ear and tell you loudly inside that first you have to train, first you have to invest your own time in becoming better performance, just like the musicians. It is not skills, but it's actually the flow which you develop. So you have seen that it is possible to develop your learning in an entertaining fashion, in an entertaining way, with an online simulation tool, which we offer, by the way, also with Georgian subtitles now. So I'm coming to an end. I hope that you will going to ask me questions like, how is it to be in the flow? I am this professor running around and speaking constantly about this importance. I have great success with it, great impact. You can also follow from the slides the many different resources and web pages of FLIGBY, Csikszentmihalyi, myself, and of course Talentflow, the great hosts. All in all, what I'm doing is not for myself. At the center of this is the founder of positive psychology, the founder of happiness studies, the founder of creativity studies. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi is the guru. And I hope that you will really enjoy reading more about him. I have here a little bit of a video, which I'm not going to play now, maybe at the end. My seminar, which is now almost an hour, as we had planned, has been a lot like this. So it's an excursion into playing around with your thoughts about the flow. What are my skills? How do I measure it? How can I prepare my team, my leadership for even better success in the future? Not when it is successful in the future, but prepare now. And Lika, I'm not saying goodbye, but I'm saying formally, as for the presentation part, may the flow be with you. You can see my university in the background, Corvinus University, and best greetings from Budapest. So now I would like to ask you to let me know what are the questions which arose, what are the aspects which we should discuss.
Zoli, thank you very much for sharing. It was very interesting and very useful. I think I have experienced flow now with you once again. And one question is that if it's possible that it can be both the same time, bored and anxiety. Natia Japarashvili is asking that she thinks that she have found herself in both states, and is it possible to have both states, anxiety and boredom?
So first of all of these mental states, Csikszentmihalyi, can exist during a day. Normally you have good days, where you feel more in control and you move around that. Some days you're more anxious. So anybody can have these feelings. But what is clearly the case is that at any given moment, you feel only one mental state. It is possible that within seconds, you readjust your situation and it changes. It happened to me here at the beginning of this presentation. When Lika told me you cannot see me, I thought, oh my God, I moved immediately into worry. What will happen now? I thought, can I do a presentation without any slides? Yes, of course. How often did the presenter never work? And within seconds, I moved back into control. So it can happen within seconds that we move around. But it's not possible to be in the same situation, I think, at the same moment, right? You move around. And this is exactly what you learn in the game, that you observe that the characters are moving around based on the simulation, on the story, and you make a decision and you are curious to see how they're impacted. But the game is very tricky because there are all sorts of sophistications which make the game very realistic, that you cannot actually make somebody immediately go into flow just like this. People think that I give you money and you will be creative. I don't say that you make people happy and then they become creative. You have to create an environment in which they become creative. Think of the dogs, right? You saw the funny ones. If you let them run around, maybe they have a tired day and then they will not want to be innovative. They just want to sleep because they're tired. But you create the environment, the work conditions, so that they can discover themselves and move into flow.
Zoli, thank you very much. And what I would like to mention, when I was playing FLIGBY, guys, it is very interesting because I've experienced flow while playing the game. So you are experiencing flow when you play the game, and it's very interesting and it makes the game awesome. Otherwise, we didn't have any questions. We had just a couple of questions about Office Manager. Was she in anxiety or bored? But then people figure out that her zone was anxiety. And also we had questions about sharing slides, and I have shared, guys, the link to the slides. And those slides are in the event page, so you can check them. And there we had questions about books, and people who were watching and listening, they shared to themselves the books, and books of Csikszentmihalyi, which is very interesting and very useful to experience.
On Amazon, I see, because some of them are Amazon. On Amazon, you can buy also our book on FLIGBY. It is called Missing Link Discovered. Missing Link Discovered.
Yes. Missing link discovered. Okay, I will write down it in event page as well. And one more question, what we have here is that can anyone take this FLIGBY game? Of course,
yes.
But
in the slides which I shared with you, there is a link where you can sign up, and we want to work only with serious people who really want to professionally develop themselves. We're not in the business of spending our time. We spend all the energy making knowledge available. But FLIGBY is really something for top general managers and developers. So with Lika, in cooperation with her, you can get communication, and it is possible to have a look at it. Also on the website, by the way. But in order to go deeper, it is a possibility. We invite all of you, and it is possible to sign up for this in the presentation. There's a link, and you fill in a Google form. We will ask where you are working, why you want to play this game, what are your ideas, and then we can go deeper with that with you as well. Yes.
Okay.
So there are different stages of getting engaged with us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course, you can play game, but as Professor mentioned, this game is for people who really want to experience flow.
Yes,
and
not anyone can play the game, because it's not a standalone game. The game is not a game. It's a leadership development tool. We call it a game to make it attractive, and it is part of our organized individual training, or ideally a company training.
Yes.
But otherwise, anyone can play, of course. And yes,
Thank you, Zola, very much. And we're getting thank you messages here. And guys, thanks for listening and watching us. I appreciate your time, Zoltan, and I appreciate that you have decided to spend this time with us. You want to share the screen, okay?
Yes,
just a second.
I would like to share with you just the screen, because this professor, I told him about, and the last time he was here in Budapest, I took him with his colleagues and his wife also to a river cruise, and he has some special greetings to you, Lika. Look.
Hello, Mihai. So you want to send greetings to?
Yes, Lika, have a good time. We are having a nice evening here in Budapest, and hope that you have a good evening there in Georgia. This is my wife, Isabella.
Hello.
With me, and we are with good friends.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Lika, this was my contribution to you for having set up this knowledge sharing work. It's a great contribution for society, a great social responsibility work. I hope the knowledge is there, and now the will emerge to develop and work hard, because all the sportsmen, all the artists, everybody with success works hard, and this is what we can promise: work hard, study hard, play hard, and enjoy the flow. May the flow be
Thank
with you, dear Lika. May the flow be with you, dear viewers. I'm hoping to hear more of you, and we can hopefully maybe work together on some future projects. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Zoltan. Thank you very much for your time, and it was very interesting as usual and as always. And we are getting too many thank you messages, and people are saying that it was very interesting and useful. Thanks for your time, and may flow be with you. And guys, may flow be with you. Now everyone knows what is flow, and you also know why Talent Flow's name is Talent Flow and nothing else. So thank you, and may flow be with you. Greetings to my beautiful and lovely Budapest, and I hope to see you soon here in Georgia in person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Zolin. Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.